And welcome, everyone, to another presentation of the EWA podcast. I am Craig. Second week in a row. See, you thought it was just going to be a fad. You thought that I was going to lose interest quickly. Well, with this week's guest, maybe I will. But that is... Wait, what?
No, go right ahead. Talk about how boring I am, Craig.
But all that aside, we are back for the second week in a row. I know I said bi-weekly, but I got such a great response and outpouring that and interest of people who wanted to come on that I wanted to bring it back for the next week. Plus, there are people out there to talk to and people I haven't got a chance to talk to. So any chance I can get to jump in there and do that with someone, I will do that. As you see over here, most of the stuff is going to remain mostly the same on these lists. If you just watch this to see the list, my top 10 for tag teams and singles wrestlers are the same. My top 10 pay-per-views of all time for the EWA are added in there somewhere. All that aside, I know you're just watching it to see the list. You don't care about the guest. You don't care about my face. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the guest. A man who has been around the EWA for a while but has yet to appear on the Podfathers podcast. He's been on that sham of other podcasts, Bagpipe Report, Hashpipe Report, whatever it is now. Who knows? It's just a sham. The secondary podcast. He used to be a co-host of it, and I think he's back as the co-host. I could be wrong. Avi, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, buddy.
Let's get it out of the way. Is it Avi or Avi?
It's Avi.
Is it Avi? And is that based off your name?
Well, it's sort of my pen name. It's a shorter version of Avicus.
Avicus. See, it's Avicus, but I call you Avi. Explain that to me. Right? Thank God we don't have to read our role plays out loud because they would just never make sense.
Right. I mean, it's really just honestly how everyone interprets it. I always pronounce it just Avi. So however you wanna say it. I mean, it's inconsequential.
Yeah. Whenever you're out there talking shit about Avi, make sure that you're saying his name right because that's very important to talking smack. Avi is a player who has been around the EWA for quite some time. I did my research on you, but forgot to see when you made your debut. Do you know what year you came into the EWA? I want to say late 2015, maybe 16. I think 16 sounds right.
No, it was 2015. It was September of 2015.
And let's talk about your debut and your early months in the EWA. You came in with Teddy Hart. That was your main character, correct? And did you put together a faction early on as well, or were you just Teddy Hart?
I started off with Teddy Hart. It was about a month or two. No, it was about a couple weeks down the road. I added Adam Cole to it and made the Kingdom, the original, and then a couple months down the road from that, I brought in Crimson and also Matt Hardy as the talking piece.
I see. Yeah, and early on you had a feud that led into All Hallows Evil that was chock full of just weird EWA drama. And I might have been at the forefront of that.
So weird. Yeah, I mean, one of the dudes who signed up not too long after I did brought in, what was his name? TJ Wilson, I want to say. So I hit him up. Hey, man, you want to do a feud? Yeah, let's do a feud. And it seemed like nothing was really meshing. We did the thing where, dude got hit by a car, but the same slam, Corey, who was the champ at the time, hit his opponent with a vehicle in the same show. So ours kind of got backlogged. And then I'm like, oh, let's step it up.
Wait, didn't the Vegas Connection come out with a semi-truck or something that show too? Wasn't there 3 car-related segments on that show?
No, the semi-truck was when Kevin Nash was going after the title with Brock. Yeah, he was going after Brock Lesnar.
That was great. Were you involved in that too?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay, we'll get... All right, we don't have to get to that later. So talk about your debut. You're working with TJ Wilson.
And I'm like, well, let's just see how wild we can get with this. And I was like, oh yeah, All Hallows Evil, it's going to be Clockwork Orange, House of Fun match. And everyone hated that idea. Yeah. Just so much backlash over that whole thing. And mostly from Steve. Yeah. Steve was very vocal. Well, this match has no build. I don't understand why it has to be Clockwork Orange, House of Fun match. Let me tell you what, back in my day, the craziest we got was a cage match.
Yeah.
I no-showed because of a sunburn.
Oh, now you're just getting personal against Steve. Come on now. You're better than that, Avi. You're better. Save that for the second-rate amateur podcast that you're on.
Listen, Hash Pipe Report is where it's at, all right? I fucking love that goddamn podcast.
Yeah, that's a shame. As it stands, yes, you came in and had a Clockwork Chamber of Horrors match, and the problem is that there really wasn't any build for it. Now, let me ask you this. A little over 3 years later, do you have any regrets about that, or do you wish at all you had done it different than you did, or you just resigned to the fact that this is what happened and you don't give a shit?
I think the only thing I would have done different was I would have done a different build. Like maybe instead of hitting him with a car, like maybe do like some concerto action or something wild. Ultimately, though, no, I don't regret it at all. It's a very fun jab that people have against me, and one of these days I'm gonna bring it back. And word Teddy Hart, Clockwork Orange House of Fun match.
I think if you could ever plan it out, that should be your last match in the EWA as well, like your last pay-per-view match. Like you go out, you come in, and you go out that way, all around. You've seen a lot of different things. You've been through a lot of different iterations. You're someone who, when you start a character, you have a tendency to surround that character with a lot of people. It's almost like you join as a faction rather than one person at any given point. Talk about your thought process going into that and why it is that you seem to, whenever you join up after your hiatuses and absences, or whenever you're just looking to do something different, you join up with 3, 4, sometimes 5 people at a time instead of just the regular one.
Mostly the thought process that goes into it is from a storytelling perspective, because it's so difficult to just have your main character interacting with some random NPC. Like if you're doing like a couple weeks back, whenever I did the podcast role play, and I was like, oh well, he's hooking up with Teddy Hart again, and we're probably never gonna see Teddy Hart in another role play for like another year again. But like he needs, for me, that character needs someone to interact with. Like with Adam Cole, I had his butler, but his butler couldn't always like give him the advice that he needed or tell the stories that he needed to tell. So, one time I brought in, when I had the lead, and it was Adam Cole, the Young Bucks, and Talia Madison, and then it was just a collective where they could all get together, and I don't have to worry about, reaching out to someone and being, hey, do you want to write something together this week? I can tell stories from, just from my own point of view.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the hardest things that we can challenge ourselves with in the EWA is creating these secondary and side characters in our characters' world that they're interacting with all the time. And I'm more of a solo guy where I like to have, Cody Rhodes, and then he's dealing with these other people that happen to be in his life, whether it be like a girlfriend or a wife or other family members. I used Goldust's daughter a lot whenever it was serious go time for my role plays, but I can understand, having multiple characters and able to and handling a bunch at once, so you're able to tell stories a lot easier, because you don't want to get caught in the sense of doing the monologue each and every role play, or having that each time you're taking a match, to where one of your 2 or 3 role plays that week is doing the monologue type style. It makes it tough for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's real easy to get burnt out on that. And I mean, even after, whenever I first came in with Teddy Hart and brought in Adam Cole, even though I still had that character to bounce dialogue off of, it seemed a lot of my role plays were very still focused on the monologue format, where he's just talking into a camera. And, like you said, it's hard to maintain. You get burnt out from it really, really quickly. And so you got to think to yourself, all right, where can I take this character and the supporting cast, and where can we go from here?
Let's shift gears now a little bit and talk about Super Brawl, but not this most recent Super Brawl. Something happened on one of your teams that I want to talk about. because that doesn't happen too often. Back in 2016, you were named a captain. You were the head of a team, and you reached out to me as Cody Rhodes and asked if I had any interest in coming back. And you had Cody come onto the team, and we did some role plays with Cleve as Chris Jericho and somebody else who skips my mind at the moment. I apologize for forgetting. We had a really good team, and I thought we meshed well together. As the captain of that team, you chose to have Cody Rhodes come out last on that team. And again, this is going to look like I'm bragging at that fact, but I wish it was anyone else so I could really get to the point of the matter. What was the thought process of going into, I'm the captain of this team? We saw it happen this year as well. I'm the captain of this team, but I'm going to anchor it with this guy in what is the biggest match of the EWA's year.
For me, that particular year, 2016, I had no idea that I was even in contention for Super Bowl captaining, and lo and behold, I get fucking hit with that. And so I just honestly, I was not prepared. That's probably like one of the lowest points from my tenure in the EWA, because my performance was just not up to par. I've personally felt that, you definitely carried the team way more than I did. So I wanted to give that last spot to you to reflect, just the amount of work and everything that you put into everything that year.
And was that a tough decision for you to make? Being a captain, like, you have this kind of almost expectation, whether it be one you put on yourself or that the peers and others in the EWA put on you for being a captain.
The only thing that was tough for me was the fact that I had to look back on what I put in, not only on my solo role plays, but in the group role plays as well, and just realize that I didn't bring anywhere close to my best. I had so much shit going on with work and with family and everything.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to fully commit. So, the toughest part for me was just, kind of going into it and saying, hey guys, I'm sorry, I wasn't on point for this event.
And then, the next year, Cody Rhodes has a rather dominant 2017 with the House of H. We come into the week before Super Brawl, and you and I face each other for the title, and you come up with the victory. And due to a stipulation that Bryce made earlier in the week with his selection, he chose the loser of our match to be on his Super Brawl team. Now, there have already been quite a few conversations on this subject, but this is you and I now, and we're the main two players in this situation as it happened. You basically inherited Cody Rhodes' team and became captain of that team, and Cody was moved to Tajiri's team and slotted into the national title role. Just talk about basically how you went through all that and how that felt for you, right from winning the world title to inheriting your team to role-playing with that team and Super Brawl as a whole.
So, the announcement of the match to begin with was huge, because I was like, oh, well, I never expected that I would get another world heavyweight title shot, but there, lo and behold, I did. At worst, I'm like, all right, well, I have some time off this week to where it's just going to be me at the house. I'm going to sit down and I'm actually going to, I'm going to take some time writing out these role plays. And at the very most, what I was going for a story that I could jump off and, take off into the direction for my Super Brawl role plays, and then, go from there. At the very, the very best outcome that I was looking at was, you remember, I think it was 2015, whenever Fuzz was world heavyweight champion, and Newt gave Jeff the shot with D'Angelo Gennaro, and Gennaro ended up winning the match, but due to it being a disqualification victory, he didn't get the belt. That's what I thought would be like, oh, well, if Adam Cole wins, he's just winning, he's getting a DQ victory. He's not getting the belt, he's not getting the Super Brawl. And then I read the match, and Adam Cole wins, and the very last image of that slam is Adam Cole holding up the belt, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm the fucking world heavyweight champion. This is amazing. And then it dawned on me, like, okay, well, now you're a Super Bowl captain again, and you have, what was it, like 2 weeks in order to, come up with a group role play and get everyone on board with the whole process. So I remember reaching out to you, and you had said, hey, the guys kind of still got a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth from last year's performance. Totally understandable. So I reached out to the other captains and said, hey, some of my players, in the event that they don't want to work with me, would you be willing to do a trade? A lot of them were cool with it. So I reached out to everyone and said, hey, I understand that last year wasn't that great. I'm wanting to do better. So if y'all want to trade, the option's there. No one wanted to trade, so we went forward. And honestly, the hardest part for that was coming up with a new group role play because, I know you had been working with Brett and Cleve and whoever Sammy Shaw's writer is, and, had come up with your group role plays, had figured out where y'all wanted to take the team and everything, and then that whole victory just kind of threw a monkey wrench into everything. And so I kind of had to just kind of go with what. And the Sammy Shaw group role play, I think it came together really well, and ended up getting a role play of the year for the awards at the year end. So ultimately, I was really glad with everything that came together.
Yeah, you made the best out of a tough situation, and it wasn't easy. And I've spoken at length on my end of how it was for me, and to go through that year that we had with the House of H, and from June on, we were really dominant, and to be champion for however many days it was. I think it was, according to my list, the 4th longest world title reign of all time. And then to be slotted into the national title slot, it was tough, and it's tough because, I felt like I deserved a spot and I deserved a captain. And in all honesty, if this was a podcast and you were asking me, I would say I felt that even if I didn't do enough to beat you that week, I was still really happy with my stuff, and I felt like I had done enough to retain the title. And much like you, if it was a result where Adam Cole got the victory, I was going to be expecting the same as well, as to where Cody would keep the title and his team. But, there's a million different things that could have happened. If Bryce hadn't drafted the way that he did, it might not have been an issue either. And then Cole would have had a team, and Cody would have kept his team and been the world title challenger. Like, there's a bunch of pieces that fell into place oddly. There was no world title match on the November pay-per-view because there really wasn't a consensus challenger to step up. So, it was a weird time, and it sucks because it happened between two guys who like and respect one another. They get kind of thrown like a spanner in the gear works, and it made it tough for everyone involved. But everyone was really professional about it and pulled through. So I'm glad to hear that your experience, while not ideal, was still a positive one.
Oh yeah, I felt fucking. I was like, oh shit. I was in disbelief, and then I had to. It was like all eyes are on me at this point. They're like, all right, well, you got this shot again. Don't fuck it up like you did last year. And so, like, I just had to go into it guns blazing and like, listen, I'm gonna do my best to make Craig proud. I'm like, I'm sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to do it.
You got to make Cleve and Brett proud, not me proud. I was Team Tajiri at that point. I don't even like I'm that kind of savant guy who remembers a lot of my individual role plays and like what I wrote them about, and like especially for specific opponents. Like I could tell you my King of the Ring role plays, all 5 of them that week, that I won King of the Ring back in like 2014 or 15 or whatever, but like I could not for the life of me tell you what my solo role plays were for that week of Super Brawl. I remember our group role play for Team Tajiri, but I do not remember my solo role plays that week at all. Like it's completely wiped from my memory. So,
you know what? Same. I mean, I honestly, really, I just remember the group role plays, trying to make sure that everything was good with all the team members, and then all of us really coming together and just throwing out just whatever the hell it is that y'all wanted to do for the group role play. Like, I wanted it to be like a common theme, but I wanted every section to be totally that writer.
Right. Do you, most of our Super Brawl experiences have been rather positive ones. I'm trying to take a look back right here. Were you on a team this year in Super Brawl?
No, I didn't come back until after Super Brawl 2018.
I was going to see what your experience was like this year, but obviously you weren't around then and came back right after. You haven't had any real like nightmare experiences working with people. You don't have to say anything by name, even in individual feuds or anything, have you?
No, honestly, I mean, the worst experience that I've ever had would be, we get something set up with someone and then someone inevitably no-shows, like if it be me or if it be my opponent, just something comes up to where they're not able to get any or all of their role plays up. And so the match kind of gets caught in the shuffle instead of, being the definitive climax to the feud.
What were your thoughts on the Super Brawl roleplay deadline extension this year around this Super Bowl? Did you catch any of that?
Yeah, I caught a bit of it. I definitely have to mimic what you and John were saying. Like, it sucks that everyone worked so hard in order to get what it is that they needed up, but on the flip side of the coin, not everyone was able to make that deadline. So Newt threw him a bone, and kudos to you guys for getting it up on time. And hey, here's a little bit of an extension to where you guys just have to rest and don't have to worry about getting anything up because you already took care of business.
Yeah, it's like I went over it last week with Cuz. It's I'd rather beat somebody at their best and when they're going full out than to kind of back into a win. But at the same time, deadlines are a part of this too, and you have to play around that and make time and make a priority for yourself to get those done. And speaking of that, like where does the EWA fall in your life as a priority? Like, is it something that you think about a lot, or is it something that is kind of just like a side thing after your main priorities? I mean, everyone has higher priorities in the EWA, don't get me wrong, but like where does it fall on your list of like if you've role played one out of a possible 2 role plays and your opponent has put 2 up on a Saturday night, like where are you at mentally?
I am in a panic and I'm trying to get everything done so where I can sit down and write something out before that 3 a.m. deadline. I'd say that the EWA takes up a pretty high priority list on me. I'm always like at work thinking of, oh, well, this would be a neat story idea to throw into a role play, or, oh, this would be a fantastic line of dialogue to throw at someone in a promo. And it's basically just, random little snippets that I kind of have to try to remember so I can piece it together later on. The problem is half the time, though, is that I just get so goddamn easily distracted. So I'll be just sitting in front of my laptop for hours with just that little indicator flashing. And I'm like, okay, I need to write something. Need to get something up sometime soon.
How long does it take you to write a role play usually?
It generally takes anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, and a lot of the times I'll do what my English professor taught me, and is, oh, well, write a little bit and then you got to put it up on the window to cool off, sleep on it, then you can go back through it. And see what parts you like and what parts you can improve on, sort of thing. That way it's not fresh on your mind.
It's kind of crazy. I'm like a 1 to 3 hour guy. Like as soon as and especially if I get going with like momentum and I know what the story is, like I can crack one out pretty quickly. It's the match writing where I run into trouble. Like Sunday I was writing that Bryan Danielson versus Johnny Flamingo match, and I would write like the first paragraph and I'd be like, oh man, like now what happens? And usually I try and like watch real matches like on the network to try and like glean some inspiration and stuff, but like nothing was coming to me, so I was like, well, I guess I'll go vacuum, and then like I'll come back and write, and I'm like, well, I guess I'll go do the dishwasher now. Like I got my house the cleanest I've ever had it in a long time, but I struggled to get through. Like it probably took me 4 to 5 hours to finish that, and it's not even that long. Like it's like 6 parts, and I struggled to get it to where it's going. Have you done a lot of match writing in the EWA?
I have done 0 match writing in the EWA. That whole process is so intimidating that I don't even want to try it, because I mean, my ideas are so fucking crazy. So if I write a match, like someone's getting fucking choke slammed through fucking tables, and then all of a sudden just like the Ministry is gonna come back and interfere in the match, and people are like, what is going on here? And I'm like, sorry, I'm ADD, so if you want me to write a match, it's going to be like Wrestling Society X, and things are going to be blowing up, and people are going to be jumping around.
Yeah, let's keep you away from results for a while then, until you've slowed your roll down a little bit. Guy like Teddy Hart in real life, a little controversial, kind of not well liked. What was the motivation behind picking him when you first started up?
I mean, at the time, I had been just such a huge Teddy Hart fan. I mean, just the whole controversy, him being the youngest dude to ever get signed to a developmental contract by the WWE, also one of the quickest to lose that contract. You know, it's just is such a black sheep, and something about that really connected. That, and, you know, I'm always a big fan of his moveset, and I just think he just pulls off some of the craziest shit. So one of the last EFEDs that I came to before the EWA, which was years before I joined up, one of the last characters that I did was Teddy Hart, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try it for Teddy Hart, but I'm gonna try it different, because like that iteration of Teddy Hart ended up rolling with like Randy Orton and was a part of Legacy, and I'm like, I want Teddy Hart to do his own thing. And so I signed up, see what happens. Pretty much lost every damn match that I was in. And
at that
I
one
had
or in the EWA?
In the EWA. Well, in both, honestly. I mean,
was there like a turning point for you here in the EWA where things kind of started maybe clicking for you, or maybe you changed something or took some inspiration from someone else? Nope. Still suck.
Yeah, I'm always gonna. I mean, every time that I'm in a match with someone, you know, I'll be the first one to say that I am the worst role player between the two, or 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But for me, the real turning point was when I was Teddy Hart got put in the King of the Ring tournament that year, and like I went up against Samuel Shaw, who always fucking dominates, like even right out the gate whenever he first signed up with the character, and I ended up winning, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I have something going on here. And so I just started building it from there, looking at other people's role plays. You were a big one who I always read, because your Cody Rhodes shit is just so great. And at the time, it was Cody Rhodes and Val Venus just dominating the tag division.
Yeah, that was fun time.
And I was like, man, I wish I could be like half as good as this. And so I would like read what other people were writing and take inspirational notes. It's like there was a whole series of role plays where like, oh, it's Diamond Dallas Page and Kevin Nash, and they're managing a strip club in the Appalachian Mountains. And I'm like, this is weird. I appreciate that. I wonder what sort of weird I can bring to the table.
You have to walk that fine line, though, because you can't be like weird with it. You know what I mean? Like you can't
Right.
you can go past the line and then it's just like, well, I went too far, and then you lose a match that you don't think you should have lost, but because you went across that line, you really couldn't stop yourself. Where not what is your line? Because I think your line's a bit further than most. Your line's probably a lot further than mine. But where is, like, how do you walk that line, I guess?
I always try to stray a little, like I'll get into a little bit of a comfortable zone and then I'll stray a little bit out.
I mean, does a lot of your stuff come from real life situations that you've been in, or are you just like maybe TV shows or movies? Like what inspires your writing a lot?
Honestly, it's a mixture of both. A lot of the heavier issues that I've been dealing with in the Scarlet Bordeaux and the Matt Taven role plays here lately, with the rampant drug use and the heartbreak and all that shit. That's a lot of that's been taken from my own personal life, but I mean, a lot of it also is stuff that I see going on with other people, or like you said, on a TV show or movie, and I'm like, all right, well, I can take this concept and I can make it a little more personable and make it a little bit more tailored to this character as opposed to having it be a direct ripoff.
I ask this because I've been there. There's no worse feeling than putting your character through a hell that you went through and then losing that match on top of it.
Right.
Like, you're like, this is pain that I dealt with and something I dealt with, and then Newt's like, and you lost. I'm like, God damn it. It's like double sucks then, man.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, on the flip side of that coin, like whenever I bring something personal into a role play, it's really, it's more so about the cathartic release of it and just putting that out there and like, all right, hey, this happened and it sucked. And I mean, even if I lose the match, then I can still say, but, at least I got that shit off my chest and, I can move on from it and I can build off of it.
Do you read a lot of other people's work?
I try to as much as I can. I've been tough. Really, it is because I mean, like everyone says, there are so many minutes in the week, and there are so many words that are being posted throughout the week. I've really been digging a lot of the stuff that Jay White's writer's been bringing to the table.
Yeah, he has a very Avi feel to him. He has a very Teddy Hart-esque-ness to him.
See, that's what I was thinking too. Holy shit.
He does. Because it's a lot of shit talking. It's a lot of cussing. Like, and that's a lot of stuff that you were doing early on, especially with your Teddy Hart. Like, when you come in here, you can go one of the two ways. You can tell deep story-driven stuff and be like, you're gonna respect me because I work hard and I'm trying my hardest. Or you can just be like, fuck you, fuck everybody, I'm gonna whip your ass. And that's kind of what you did, and that's kind of what Jay White's doing right now.
Yeah, definitely. And like we were saying earlier, that sort of format is really hard to keep up with.
Yeah. So
I'm really curious to see how he's going to perform during, say, Civil War and
honestly
after that.
It's a hard format to keep up when you lose or after you've lost. Where it's just up yours, everybody, and then like if he loses this week or whatever, then it's gonna be hard to bounce back and be like, haha, I'm still the best. Up yours, you kind of lose the edge you have whenever you take the L. So, not saying that he's going to, but it'll be interesting to see how he reacts down the road, especially role play wise, if and when he finally does take that loss. But now it's kind of a fun time to join up. Civil War coming up. And it's a good way to get your guy in there and get yourself a good rub. I don't know this. How has your Civil War luck been in the past?
Oh, I've lost every Civil War match I've ever been in, but I mean, my characters, whenever they pop in, they always have a great time. So I'm really just looking forward to see. Yeah, I mean, Newt writes fucking fantastic matches. He just writes some crazy off the wall shit. I mean, like, like this is gonna be the match where Newt gets to ride Joey Ryan doing the dick flip, and I'm all for it. Like I want like the one where like the 5 dudes are grabbing each other's dick, and then Joey Ryan flips them all at once. Like that's what I want in Civil War.
You and I are vastly different people. We are not the same whenever it comes to. I'm more of a traditionalist. You're not so much when it comes to the world of wrestling.
And that's okay.
No, it's not. Yeah, okay, I guess that's fine. I guess I don't really. I don't really know how to go about asking this question, but it is something I want to get your opinion on. It's going to be a tough one, and I'm probably going to sound like a dick, so I apologize. You, in your time here, you have won every title. You have
except for the women's championship.
That's right. I was getting ready to get to that too. Yes, you've been the national champion, you've been the tag team champion, and you've been the world heavyweight champion. Now, unfortunately for you, 84-day reign as national champion, actually pretty respectable, but only a 7-day reign as tag team champions with the Young Bucks, and then a very short reign as well with the world title. Is it kind of bittersweet to win those titles but not be able to hold on to them and defend them for a length of time, or is it just still good overall in your mind to have gotten the opportunity and won those titles?
Well, for starters, that question didn't make you sound like a dick at all. You know, it's kind of, I mean, it's bittersweet because in the sense it's like, yeah, you won that belt, but then, you know, you don't really get the chance to defend it all that well. I mean, it's really hard to pull off a successful tag champ reign whenever you're working solo and you have people like Brett and Cleve, or, you know, just the magnitude of
any two riders are going to have an advantage over one, no matter how great the one is. Exactly. Generally speaking, any two riders will have the advantage in that because they just have to write less and they get to spread their time out.
And as for the World Heavyweight Championship, I mean, that's like the pinnacle of what everyone is gunning for. So that puts like the biggest target on your back. So you have to be on your A game just all the time. Like for me, it's great. Like, but then whenever I actually win those belts, it's like, oh God, now I just have to now I have to deal with everything that comes along with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, like you were thrown into a bad situation, but it does stink. You know, you don't want to be the guy that has the title for a week, and usually there's like a storyline revolved around it. I don't recall what happened with the Young Bucks. I think, did you win the titles from... I actually have it pulled up right here. I can take a look. But you won the titles from Paul London and Matt Hardy. Was that a Steve iteration, or was that somebody else?
I think that was someone else. I think that might have been a Chalmers.
Yeah. And he was like MIA at that point, wasn't he?
Yeah. And then I ended up dropping the belts to
the House of H. Brett and Cleve. And they went on to have a 119-day reign, which was just 112 days longer than yours, but still a pretty impressive one to.
And you know, kudos to them for tearing it up. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then you were their captain at the end of the year, so.
Yes.
Life is a circle. Ian Malcolm probably said that.
Did he?
Nothing? No, he didn't. He didn't. So you've had a chance to work with some different people in the EWA. Who were some of your favorite people to work with in the past?
Nealon is a name that I often think about whenever I think about some of the great feuds that I've had in the past. I mean, he was always open to, you know, like fucking the Elite coming down in a goddamn monster truck armed with paintball guns to fucking light up the fucking Shield, and he's like, yes, let's do this. And I was like, all right, buddy, we're getting it on. Jeff is always great to work with as well. I mean, honestly, I really don't. I like I said earlier, I haven't had a bad experience working with anyone.
Are there some guys that you would like to work with in the future, near or further down the road?
Absolutely. Pretty much all of the old guard. I'd love to have another contest with you again someday. Love to work with Corey. Always fantastic working with John. Definitely out of the new breed. I mean, honestly, I'd like to get my chance to work with everyone. Especially a little bit of Jay White action going on. Everything that's going on with the Kings of Wrestling and what Walter's got going on with his thing. I mean, I'd love to get involved to just any and all of that.
And of course, you're involved in Marty Scurll's group, The Horde, right now, with Jack Evans. What was your motivation for joining up with Jack Evans, and where you kind of see that character going down the road?
Well, I mean, we reached out to each other, and we were listing off various wrestlers that we were wanting to do. I've always wanted to try my hand at a Jack Evans, just to see if I could get him to work. Like, all of my friends who are wrestling fans just shit all over Jack Evans, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go for it. Honestly, it's been great working with Josh with his Bryan Danielson. So I'm kind of hoping that we have a pretty solid tag team run, and can make a few waves.
Is it tough, you think, you being in the Kingdom, because with the Vaudevillains, Jared doing his stuff with the Kings of Wrestling, Josh being the national title, you look at a group like the Horde, and unlike groups in the past, Ohio versus Everything is one person, as far as I know. House of H were three guys that trusted each other and worked only on those characters. Now you have these groups that have people controlling characters that have other characters and other factions. How tough is it to balance that and decide what you want to do with each one?
I mean, it's a little tough because you want your main people. Like, I really want to push Matt Taven and see how far he can go. But I mean, honestly, a lot of the positive feedback that I've been getting in regards to the Kingdom is all Scarlet Bordeaux. So I'm like, all right, well, me never winning the women's title, let me see how well I can do, give her a little push, and that'll give me time to focus on Jack Evans and, the Horde and do that thing instead of, trying to make the Kingdom work.
So even though you have national title, tag team title, and world title credits to your name, what's something you'd like to accomplish in the EWA?
Winning Civil War would be dope at some point. Winning the women's championship and becoming a Grand Slam champion would be pretty awesome as well. Having a successful world title or tag team reign would be nice. Something more than a week. King of the Ring, captaining a winning Super Brawl team. I mean, the main staples of what the platinum trophies of what everyone are going for in the EWA.
Yeah, and there's each one. I have been fortunate enough to be a long, have a nice long reign as the world title. I've won Civil War. I've won, I've won King of the Ring. I've won Super Brawl. There's really, each one's better than the next, and the next one will probably feel better than all the previous one combined if I'm able to get that. So I remember being in your position, and I remember, or something similar to it, and I remember seeing all those as something I wanted to do, and it's just a matter of get out there and getting after it. The EWA it's no slouch, man. So it's a testament to you and your work, and how hard you went whenever you pick up a victory like that. And I think that's what each of your title wins was in the first place.
Well, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that.
Yeah, this place is not for the faint of heart. And if you have a hard time losing or struggle writing off a loss, this may not be the place for you, because day in, day out, week in and week out, assuredly there are people that are gonna lose, and that's just how this place goes.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've taken some hard L's in my tenure, some real hard L's. uh, whenever I was drafted onto Brady's Super Bowl team, and my very first pay-per-view after that, losing the national championship to Chalmers, that was a tough L to swallow right there.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been there, and we've all bounced back. At least those listening to this mostly have. So, I say stick with it. You're a guy who has all the talent and skill in the world, and those things you're talking about are certainly at your grips. I've captained, I think, a couple Super Bowl losing teams myself, so it sucks, and that's the one that hurts the most. But we'll all get there together one way or the other. We'll find somebody that will no show against us, and we'll get that easy W.
Nice, well played.
But now, as great of a place as the EWA is sometimes, some things can really be a penis in our anus. Avi, it is time. And you hear the music in the background. It is time for you to say, what is your EWA penis in Uranus, my friend? The floor is yours.
Okay, for me, the penis in my anus would be the road to Super Brawl. Just like the draft, the putting the teams together, the getting all the work out before the goddamn deadline, and just having to deal with the holidays and everything that comes along with that in real life, and then having the biggest event of the EWA year right then, bam, that would be it. That would be the most. That's my biggest beef with the EWA.
So it's kind of like this full long build to this EWA orgasm that is Super Brawl, and then I think the Super Brawl hangover can be just as bad as the build-up sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But, I mean, like, once the deadline is passed, and then you're just in that lull waiting for the results to get posted, and then once the actual results get posted, and you see, like, the glorious money shot that fucking Newt has displayed for us, I mean, it's well worth all of that. So, I mean, it's just a real bittersweet, just trying to get to the end, trying to cross that finish line with, all your arms and legs still, and no profuse bleeding going on. That's it.
It can be quite a challenge. Like, Super Brawl it's a tough one, and you're trying to get everybody on the same page. We've talked about stuff like Google Drive and how it's changed the game, but there are times where you're just like, man, this is kind of crazy whenever you take a look at it. Like, you're doing all of this work, and at the end of the day, sometimes there's 8, sometimes there's 12 losers, and only 4 people get to come out on top. It really makes you question a lot of stuff whenever you're on the losing end of it,
It does. And I mean, God, Google Drives is a godsend. I couldn't even imagine trying to do Super Brawl like before then. Kudos to all y'all for, making that shit work.
I think we were the first post Google Drive Super Brawl winner, and we were very adamant in Google Drive that first year. It was kind of crazy. It was a big time game changer for us and for the Fed as a whole. So, but yeah. I can agree with you. Like the Super Brawl build up and everything that goes into it. It's tough, man. And you have like this huge match of the year, and it always falls right around the holidays. And it's something that we talk about a lot in the EWA, is that it makes it tough on everyone. But I like to think that it's always worth it in the end, because the results are usually pretty good, and it's always up there for pay-per-view of the year, and it's just a well put together thing, and it's kind of the culmination of sometimes a year's worth of work. And I've been happy with my effort every year, except for maybe the year I was on Tajiri's team, which those suspect at the beginning. But yeah. So you've been the guest host, or the sidekick on Dylan's Hash Pipe Report. You were it for a long time, and then you took your hiatus, and now you're back. Talk about your time working with Dylan on the Hash Pipe Report.
Well, the Hash Pipe started off as sort of a parody. It was either my birthday or Dylan's birthday. We were talking about, oh yeah, haha, we'll do our own podcast. We'll call it the Hash Pipe instead of the Bagpipe Report. We're witty. and whimsical.
Unfortunately.
And then, yeah, unfortunately. And then a couple months down the road, I mean, Bryce was on his hiatus, so the Bagpipe Report stopped. And no one was doing a monthly podcast for the pay-per-views anymore. And so I kind of hit Dylan up, and I was like, hey, so that Hash Pipe Report thing. He's like, oh, yeah, haha, that'd be hilarious.
Doesn't even sound like him. But okay.
Yeah, you're right. It's hilarious.
There we go. No. Last week I had on the John impersonator. This week I'm going to have on the Dylan impersonator.
We just want Kim to be on every...
Hey, we had Kurgan, and Kurgan, like, he fell into a coffin, and he died, and I was we just like, okay, well, there's tea crumpets, blah, 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 ghost.
We're going to wrestle in a shark cage!
Let me ask you something, and,
all
right, I've stopped recording, so we're done here now. Do you think Dylan's a good host?
Oh, absolutely. I fucking love Dylan.
God damn it, I was recording. You son of a bitch, Avi.
My bad. I mean... But the thing about Dylan is that both he and I, we're just so unfocused, so we'll just talk about whatever. Like that very first Hash Pipe Report where it's just the two of us was a complete mess. Yeah. And we just had the best time recording it. And then we listened back on it and we're like, wow, this is awful. There's no way that people are going to listen to this every month. We need to bring some legitimacy into the mix. And then we're like, hey, John, you're a level-headed guy.
John made a huge mistake.
Yes, he did. But you know what? I mean, even whenever I was gone, those two continued to make it work. So kudos to them. I love them both, and I fucking love the Hash Pipe Report.
I think I was listening to last month's because now that you're back and you have other people, I was like, you know what, I'm going to take a step back, let some other people get on the podcast. And I listened to the Marty Gabriel stuff, and you guys started talking about like Gears of War chainsaws and stuff, and I was like you should have seen me. Like you can see me on the screen right now. Like as I was listening, I just put my hands up like this, and I was like, This is fucking stupid. Like, what is this? Talk about Marty. Like, I've been busting my ass in EWA for weeks. And then I just laughed and said, you know what? That's funny. That's funny stuff. Defend yourself in your stupid podcast right now.
I mean, what sort of defense would you like for us, Craig?
Actual good one.
There's no legitimate defense. I mean, it's a podcast where two guys get high off their ass and another dude gets fucking wine drunk and we just talk
with a rock band mic.
Talk about
back
fucking,
in the day.
we talk about the podcast. We talk about what our favorite Easter candy is. We just talk, and it's, you know what? It's a great listen, but it's also why like that sort of controlled chaos that we have is the reason why we have like a quarter of the views that the EWA, the legit podcast that you do, gets.
No, that's not true. It's just because people Google search me and find my name in real life, and then they see the podcast and they wonder what the hell's going on. I had somebody from the EWA add me on Facebook the other day, and I gotta say that's it makes you really question what you're doing with your life when somebody tracks you down out there and adds you.
Yeah, that would be weird.
It wasn't weird. They're probably listening and they're like, oh, that's me he's talking about. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I love you, Josh. You know that. I do not love you, Josh. Now Avi's just confused as to what's going on. But what's new? Avi, my favorite memory from the Hash Pipe Report is when you were laying on your bed and rolled over a bag of M&Ms. And it sounded like an alien was abducting you. You remember that?
I don't recall. Do you remember what pay-per-view that was?
Hell no, I don't. And it shocks me that you don't remember the podcast where you rolled over a bag of M&Ms and it was just like right into your computer microphone or cell phone or whatever the hell you were using.
I was using my iPhone microphone. No, I don't remember that. But I mean, you know, I was frequently having snacks whenever I was doing the Hash Pipe Report, so that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I mean, they were always yelling at me about the weird shit like I was doing. Like I'd be packing the bong and I'd be like.
You could always do You could always hear you ripping it in the background every time.
Oh yeah, yeah. But like whenever I was opening the bag, you could hear like the bag crinkling, and Dylan would be like, "Are you eating crisps?" And I'm like, "No, dude. I'm just getting higher." So,
well,
I mean,
well, regardless, I was gonna say you're a hell of a guest host, and the Bagpipe Report, it's now the Hash Pipe Report, and it's a monthly staple here. And kudos to Dylan for going out each and every month and putting that out, as it's always on the week of the pay-per-view, and he's never wavered from that. And, you know, Dylan, and you guys can attest to this, these podcasts sometimes can be a bit laborious and tough to do, and, you know, I've taken my fair share of breaks in the past, but the podcasts are also good for the EWA as a whole, and I'm glad that we have the Hash Pipe Report to talk about the stories and matches going on in the EWA, because I think that's way more important than this podcast, where we do get to talk to people and get to know them and find out more about them. I think this has a good place in the EWA, just as the Hash Pipe Report does as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You know, your EWA podcast, you know, it's more so to get involved with the writers. And I mean, we'll touch on the writers a little bit on the Hash Pipe, but, you know, for the most part, like, you know, John makes sure that we're talking about the story and we're talking about the statistics. And then Dylan and I are coming up with, you know, stupid ass shit to say, like, oh, hey, what was your favorite Sega Genesis game? Why was it RoboCop? You know, whatever.
It's Aladdin, but okay.
That is a great game. Not my favorite Disney game, though, for the Sega Genesis. Mine would have to have been The Lion King.
I was going to say, Lion King was my second. Lion King sucked on Super Nintendo, but it was really good on Sega.
Oh, man. And so difficult.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard as hell. Game was really... You know what? This is turning into the Hash Pipe Report. I don't like that. Why don't we go ahead and call this one right here out before this gets out, before this goes on too far. I want to thank you for coming on. It's so good to finally have you on. You were a guest that had eluded me in the past, so our timelines had never really lined up, so it was good to get you on, and hopefully you enjoyed it as well.
Oh, man, I had a blast. It was so worth it, like the long-ass wait. I've been wanting to get on this podcast for so long, and it's so nice to be here.
Well, now you join Dylan and Brady as the only people who will ever be banned from the rest of the remaining EWA podcasts. So congratulations on that.
Thanks, buddy.
No, thank you for coming on. And if you guys are out there listening and you'd like to come on, just feel free to send me a message. I have a couple people already lined up to come forward and do the podcast, but please do not hesitate. Reach out to me. We'll set something up. We'll get something going and working. These podcasts, very laid back, very carefree, and people enjoy getting to meet the others in the Fed and get behind the scenes look. You know, there's a lot of interesting people out there, and you know, you're doing your writing and you take a lot of motivation from stuff in your life and different things, and there's a reason why you chose your character and the reason why you're putting them through the stories that you are. I want to find out about that. So if you're interested in telling that story, please feel free to reach out to me. Also, you can find me on Twitch at the Crossroads83 and Maurer83 on Twitter. You can check me out there. Thank you for listening. Avi, thank you one last time. Any last words?
Rock on, y'all.
Rock on, y'all. There you have it, Avi, with the final words of the day. Thank you all for listening and watching. This has been a presentation of the EWA.